AP here from the Tailgate. We talk Aggie football every day. Brought to you by Frida Custom Homes, building Aggie dreams. Don't forget to email us at agstailgate@gmail.com. All right, today we're going to talk a little bit about the effects of the transfer portal after this past week, as well as go a little bit of more in depth on the maroon and white game. I think after going back and watching some of the game again, some of our takes the other day could have used a little bit more clarification. But let's start with a few news and notes, non-football news and notes there, Corey. Baseball, 2 of 3 from Kentucky went over A&M Corpus in the midweek. Some good performances from different guys. Nathan Detmer goes 6 innings and gives up 2 runs as a starter. Micah Dallas, a good start on Saturday as well in a big-time win, something like 17-3. Guys like Dylan Rock and Jack Moss continue to hit the ball pretty well for the lineup. So
they're up 6-1 right now on the top of the 5th on Georgia, the number 13 team in the nation.
There you go. And so these next two series are pretty big. Georgia and Arkansas. Georgia, I think, is 13-10, depending on what poll you look at. Arkansas is 3 or something in the country. So, they're up there. So they got 2 big-time series in the SEC coming up.
Yeah.
Softball, man, they're struggling. Lost 2 out of 3 to LSU. Now they've got 14 Tennessee coming to town and number 2 Bama. We're going to 14 Tennessee and number 2 Bama the week after. So it's going to be a struggle. They're 3-9 in the conference. I don't expect that to get a lot better. Men's golf, though, has a good weekend at the Aggie Invitational. Played right over there next to your house, by the way, at Traditions.
Yeah.
Right
in the backyard.
Right in the backyard. Walker Lee and Sam Bennett finish number 1 and number 3 in the tournament. SEC championships are up next for the golf team, so right. Pretty big. Did you catch any of that in the backyard?
No, no, just dodging golf balls.
Yeah. Women's tennis continues their impressive run, skunking LSU at 7-0. So those gals are kicking butt a little bit, kicking butt. All right. Before we get to the football thing, man, it's funny for me because I was rewatching the show the other day, our show, the Tailgate from Monday night, and we're doing this from our houses, right? We're doing this remote. You're in your house, I'm in my house. I've got all this stuff behind me. This is what my apartment looks like, right? And then I noticed that I've got all this, on Monday, I got all this stuff in the counter back here, just sitting there kind of out of place. It's like, what the heck, man? Clean up or something, right? Today, nice and clean. There's nothing back there. It's good to go. Now, I mentioned all this, and, Corey, I think we mentioned it on the show, I'm still in search of the perfect woman, and
yeah.
And I love a lot of things about women, and I love a lot of women. But there's one lady that I love the most. My little lady, I've got a lady that comes in here every other Wednesday. So you know exactly which Wednesday she's here because this place is clean and spotless, man. See how good it looks?
Yeah.
I love Laura. She's an amazing woman. She takes care of me like no other. Oh, man. It's just a love that you can't replace, So anyway, I just wanted to mention her and throw her out there. Make sure she's a part of the show. All right, so not a football.
Yeah.
All right, so this week we've gotten some news. You got a lady of your own calling your name back there a little bit, huh?
Oh yeah, my daughter's going crazy right now. She's she wants daddy all the time. 2.5-year-old. That's what happens.
Yeah, she's 100% scared of me most of the time. But I think I had a breakthrough this past weekend, didn't I?
You did. She gave you hugs and kisses.
Oh man, I got my first hug, dude. It was so awesome.
There you go.
All right, so this week, man, we get some news out of obviously maroon and white game Saturday, and after all that, there's a couple of things that come out in the news. One is Chapman, which I think we talked about last time, right? Coming out in the transfer portal. I don't remember if we got to that. But Chapman enters the transfer portal at wide receiver. And, earlier in the offseason, we said he's a candidate for the transfer portal just because he hasn't been able to stay healthy here. And there's been so much additional talent come in since he's been here that has started to make a name for themselves that he was falling behind, right?
Right.
So he enters his name in the transfer portal. Let's start with him before we move on. At this point, look, and everybody remembers Chapman for what he did against Florida, right? Yeah. Everybody remembers those huge touchdown catches from Kellen Mond on the posts both times. Second one leading to his injury, right? But aside from that game, if you take that game out of Chapman's history out, he's been sort of a myth.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not a lot of production, let's say. You listen to the folks at Texags, and Chapman is the best wide receiver that stepped on campus at A&M in 30 years.
Well, he had the potential to be a good receiver. He had some speed. He was a deep ball threat, bigger receiver, bigger target. His hands didn't seem too bad. I mean, against Florida, it didn't seem bad at all. But like you said, he couldn't stay healthy. Talent level has gone way up at A&M, and playing time's going to be tough for him. He saw the writing on the wall, too. There's more players coming, too.
And he did. Look, and he's a good player. There is no doubt about it. I'm not going to sort of put him down. That's not what I'm trying to do.
Right.
But he's not a top echelon type wide receiver in the SEC.
No.
Right? He doesn't have that suddenness that guys like, Jalen Waddle, Stewart, guys in the SEC that have been top end draft picks, right? He doesn't have that. He's got the top end speed, he's got the size, but there's still a piece of the game that differentiates him from the guys at the top. And look, I hope and wish the best for the guy. I hope and wish the best for the guy, and I hope he finds a place that he can get some playing time. More importantly, I hope he stays healthy for somebody, But with Chapman, now we're talking Chat, we're talking Demas, and just to throw in another pass catcher, Cup, all transferred out. And I don't think that at any time we had all these guys listed, by the way, earlier in the offseason as potential transfer candidates. We mentioned them, but all three of them. So it's not a surprise. But
we've also talked about them as breakout players too in the past. If they were healthy or if the offense was different, if somebody could get on the ball. I mean, I think a lot of things matter here, but Cup, we talked about him. He couldn't stay healthy. Chapman couldn't stay healthy. Demas couldn't get on the field for the first year or two. And then when he does, he has some production and then he gets in trouble and, the rest is history. He's gone.
Yeah. And I guess my question to you, look, you're right. Health has played a part in at least two of these guys' sort of career here, right? And a poor upbringing probably played a part in the third. But having said that, at this point, nobody's surprised that any one of these guys has transferred. However, now that it's three guys, is there an effect here on this wide receiving, pass catching unit for the Aggies? I mean, what sort of effect are we going to see?
It's not going to affect them at all. You're talking about three players that aren't – we didn't see them. We saw them going in the portal anyway because the talent level is so much higher. We have guys that I still think are going to get into the transfer portal that are receivers because they're not as good as the guys we have coming in. They're not as talented. I mean, we're in the big business of college football now. It's not like it used to be where
big business.
Seriously, I mean, these guys, they're seeing the writing on the wall. These are 4-star, 3, 4-star, 5-star players that are saying, "Man, we're not good enough to make this team." And that makes me happy, to be honest with you, because I want the best players to play. I don't want to give so and so playing time because he's on the roster or so and so. I don't think Jimbo's doing that. And I don't think he will do that.
Well, wide receivers, Jimbo's in the last few years has historically had 3 guys on the field that he leaves on the field the entire game, which makes no sense.
I don't understand why top end receivers would want to come to A&M after the last couple of years of what I've seen. I mean, I see Smith and Wademeyer. They've gotten almost all the production at the receiving. I can't think of another receiver that's really caught. I mean, Preston had a couple games. Chapman had a game here and there. Demas had a game here and there, but it wasn't consistent.
Right.
So I want to see the ball get spread out more. I want to see what they show in the spring game on the actual field where they throw the ball to different players.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I agree with you, right? The effect really, I mean, as you look at it, is not huge. I will say this. Probably more at the tight end than the wide receiver. The one thing we do end up losing is, it's hard to say experience because the guy's never been on the field, but he's been on campus for 3 years in Cup, right? He's been on campus for 3 years. And so there may be a little bit of, because we're going to end up basically playing 2 freshman tight ends in Johnson and Green.
Right.
Max
I don't know. I think Wright's going to get some playing time in there quite a bit. And then
Max Wright's the blocking guy. Don't get me wrong. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be in there. And what's his name? Blake Smith. Yeah, I think he might get some. I don't know if he can block. But I think our upgrades, like I said, I mean, every position we're upgraded in talent so much. I mean, yeah, you're right. There's a freshman coming out. I wish Wademeyer wouldn't have put his name in the draft because he is dropping.
How big would that be? Get Wademeyer back for one more season, just one more season, and then throw Jake Johnson and Green in the mix after they've been on campus for a year.
Hey, what was Wademeyer's best season as a Aggie? Was it his sophomore season?
Year. Definitely.
But he had a good freshman season too, though.
Yeah, he had a good freshman season, but
out of nowhere. Remember, he came out of they were talking about him a little bit, but the talk was all about Cup. Wademeyer comes out, they're like, we don't miss Cup at all.
Really and truly, his freshman year, his biggest issue was the fact that he didn't even attempt to block.
Yeah. And that's going to be the same thing with these freshmen. So it's always, I think, going to be a freshman issue.
I don't know about Johnson. Jake Johnson coming from a football.
Background. Exactly. That's the only one I think that might. And what I've heard about Green, I mean, I haven't seen any tape on the guy, but what I've heard is nothing but good stuff. I heard Wademeyer praising the kid.
Oh, I'm telling you, and you should have seen him when him and Conner Weigman were playing in that All-Star game together. I mean, the guy is phenomenal, and he's already got a good rapport with his future quarterback.
Right.
But okay, so look, talking about this, all right, so as a pass-catching group as a whole, I agree with you, not a whole lot of effect. I mean, the fact of the matter is that with Stewart and Muhammad and Smith and Brown, Preston, who I still think has to play a little bit bigger role.
Price.
Not to mention Chris Marshall showing up here in the summertime.
Price. You haven't said,
in the mix. Right, there's
you
haven't
said
lots
anything
of
about
bodies.
Chase Lane? What about Chase Lane? You haven't said anything about
Chase Lane, but there's lots of bodies, right?
Yeah.
I think the question mark becomes here just, before the beginning of the season. Are there potential for a couple more transfers that all of a sudden now starts to hurt your depth a little bit, just in case somebody gets hurt or whatever, right? What do you think?
How deep do you need to be at receiver? Do you need 10 of them? I mean, 15? I mean, I think a good 6, 7, 8 receivers are pretty solid with 2 or 3 good tight ends. I mean,
think
like
so.
you just said we used 3 receivers all of last year pretty much.
Yeah, and the thing that you got to be careful of is that a lot of those freshmen, Stewart's going to be on the field. I'm thinking doubt. But the other ones, you don't know, right? They're probably going to be sitting back. So you don't want those guys to have to show up earlier than they should, right?
And you don't need that though. I mean, you got Preston Price, Chase Lane, Anais Smith. You got plenty of depth there. Keith Brown.
Well, and then think about the fact that And then again,
and we throw the ball to our backs. We throw the ball to our backs out of the backfield too.
After this year, a couple of those guys leave because they're graduating, whatever. Preston Smith, they're gone. Chase Lane is still around. But, now all of a sudden, all you've got is a bunch of soft. I mean, I'm just saying that can become an issue if a bunch of these guys. And look, here's my thing. There's still a couple of guys that could enter the transfer portal. I mean, Kenyon Jackson, is a guy that's a huge target at 6'6", and he's just buried in the depth chart, right? So why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he go try to figure out a place to play? How about?
I don't blame him, but you understand that transfer portal. That transfer portal works both ways. We can dip into it if we have to and get players if we have to. We haven't had to.
I don't think we do.
Exactly. I know Jimbo knows that. He's like, Alabama knows that, and they go out and get some of the best players when they need to.
Yeah, just the ones they need, though.
Exactly. They'll pick up a couple defensive players, a wide receiver here and there. I mean, who'd they pick up last year? That wide receiver last year that just blew up.
Yeah. He's going to end up being a first-round pick.
That's what I'm saying.
And he was buried behind, and that's my point. I mean, that's a guy that was buried in the depth chart at Ohio State, went to Alabama, and now is considered the best.
How the hell do you get buried in the depth chart at Ohio State and you're a first-round draft pick at Alabama? It doesn't make any sense.
If he hadn't got hurt, he'd be getting drafted ahead of the guys that he was behind at Ohio State.
Man, Ohio State should be kicking themselves right now.
Yeah,
you make that kind of mistake.
Obviously, the guy should have been a bigger, more prominent role there. So same thing here, though, right? These guys are buried in this depth chart. Why not go find a place that maybe makes you a star?
Absolutely.
Right? And I wouldn't blame him for that.
Right.
Jackson's not going to get any playing time here. If I'm Chase Lane, I'm thinking about it because there's no way Chase Lane should have been starting the other day.
Man, you and I talked about this last year. We watched games with teams, and I was like, they'd say, hey, Aggie, ex-Aggie, I can't remember some of the guys. Wide receiver from Minnesota. He was ex-Aggie.
Right.
He had a great game that we watched. And then the ex-Aggie was a running back for the Hurricanes or somebody. I don't know who it was, a Florida school.
Florida State.
Yeah, he had a good game. You're going to see that. Nick Starkel, we watched Starkel have good games for San Jose State. And, hey, more power to him.
Nobody wanted Nick Starkel back. Let's be clear.
Well, I'm just saying, any of these players, I'm happy for them.
Just kidding, Nick.
He's never coming on the show now.
We had him lined up for a guest next week.
Yeah,
make a guest appearance. Well,
there he goes.
There went that. All right, so that's what's the wide receiver group. So after, I think it was on Wednesday, maybe on Tuesday, we get another guy into the transfer portal, Derek Hunter. Derek Hunter goes into the transfer portal. Now, Derek Hunter was a big-time recruit, man. He was a mid-4-star guy, came in as a defensive lineman, got behind all those defensive linemen that were here. So They moved him over to offense. He's a good athlete. He's a damn good athlete for a guy his size, that could play D-line. Moved over to the offensive line, and once again, just kind of got behind the guys that are starting, right? And a lot of those guys being freshmen, sophomores. So he's going to go find a place to play. I don't blame him at all. Any effect on the O-line, I guess? O-line group?
You're talking about a guy we haven't talked about at all on this show. No, not an effect. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if these coaches are whispering in these guys' ears, hey, man, the transfer portal's out there. Man, maybe give them a little nudge. I wouldn't say they're doing that on purpose. I think they might be. I could see it. I could see it being like, hey,
look, Derek Hunter was not starting this year for this offensive line. He wasn't going to play for this offensive line.
What year is he? A freshman, a redshirt freshman, or a sophomore?
He's probably going to be for 22 a redshirt sophomore. And here's the thing with Hunter, he's a phenomenal athlete. So if you can get him lined out and ready, technically sound, he can play, right? He can play somewhere.
It has the time and patience to develop him. We don't have that.
But it's not going to be here.
Right.
It's not going to be here. And so the
Not-
only thing he actually hurts here for us is depth, and really not even depth for the depth in a couple of years maybe, but practice depth, because we saw him this weekend and they could barely line up two offenses because they didn't have enough offensive linemen.
Let me tell you
And
something.
there were some guys out.
Do you listen to the Paul Feinbaum show at all? At all?
I detest Paul Feinbaum. How about that?
I don't. I enjoy listening to his show. And I enjoy people now calling in talking about the Aggies, and they're talking about the Aggies' staying power. And the people that are calling in, they're talking. Paul Feinbaum said, if you talk to 10 football coaches, they're all talking about Texas A&M and Texas because of the resources we have, the money, and that they're not going anywhere for a long time. And these players, such as the Hunters, the Chapmans, the guys that are transferring out, they see that also. They know if they're not good enough right now, they need to go somewhere else and play because they see the guys they're playing against every day in practice. You know that?
All right. So
I don't think this is a bad thing that some of these guys are transferring out.
It's
at
not.
all.
100%
I think that it's opening up roster spaces. We're going to get more talent. We're getting better. I mean, we got 3 good quarterbacks that could probably start at a lot of schools.
Listen, let's be clear here. We like our quarterback room, but not a lot of folks are going to line up to get Max Johnson. Okay, I'm just telling you.
Well,
we keep referring to Max Johnson as this guy that had this great year last year with LSU. He didn't. He had a great game against us. He had a good game.
Same thing with Calzada, right? Calzada had a great game against Alabama?
Right. Absolutely. At least with Calzada, I can say that the offensive line didn't even give him a chance. So
what are you saying? You don't think Max Johnson is one of the top 20 or 30 quarterbacks in the nation?
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay.
I think Max Johnson is a caretaker. He's a guy that will dink and dunk, get the ball to your athletes at time, as much, but he'll also hold the ball for too long. He'll get sacks. He'll create those kinds of things, and don't get me wrong. Is he the guy, if you've got a great defense on the other side and a bunch of awesome athletes, is he the guy that could be a caretaker for you? Think Bennett, who just won a national championship for Georgia.
Yeah,
of course,
exactly.
Bennett made some pretty big plays over there for them in the national championship.
Was Johnson better than Bennett?
No, Bennett just won a national championship. Didn't I just say that?
Bennett won the national championship. That's what you're saying. He won the national championship.
He made some plays for those guys to win the national championship. Yes,
I understand. I understand. So if Bennett was on another team, he'd probably win a national championship too. Is that what you're saying?
Well, let's be clear here. Johnson on no team can win a national championship.
So if Johnson was in Bennett's shoes, Johnson won the national championship last year?
No.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Because here's the thing. Bennett had been in that program. He knew the playbook up and down. He'd been starting for that team for 2 years. He had a great rapport with his teammates. He controlled the offense. He had great chemistry with the skilled players there. All those things are something that don't just show up, right? That's him being there for all those years. But having said that, here's my concern, and it's not about Derek Hunter. I went back, like I said, and watched that maroon and white game again. I thought the offensive line for sure played excellent, by the way. Excellent. Moko, after his injury, really, really struggled with the first group. However, as you go look at that offensive line, there is not a single senior offensive lineman on the roster.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
Not one.
As long as they don't transfer out or declare for the NFL draft, we're fine.
But my point to that is that normally, the best offensive lines in the country have juniors and seniors, right?
Right.
This offensive line is going to have one junior starting. That's Robinson. Unless Trainer gets into the starting rotation, which Jimbo doesn't seem to be wanting to do.
I don't understand that.
But unless Trainer gets in it, it's going to be Robinson. The other guys, Zune, It's a redshirt freshman. Foster, freshman. Fathery, freshman. Right?
Wait,
Wyckoff,
no,
Fathery,
wait.
sophomore. So,
Yeah, okay.
Foster and Fathery were both are both going to be sophomores, right?
Okay, yeah, you lost me.
Wyckoff, redshirt freshman.
Right.
Aki, I guess is going to be a redshirt sophomore. If he's even still on campus, right? If he loses his job, he may be in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only concern is at some point there are some other guys, Chabuzo, Sabra, that could all still enter the transfer portal from that group. You could lose depth. The ability to practice. The ability to practice is important. Even though those other guys aren't going to ever start here, being able to get those reps because so you have your first team, your second team, those things, that's important.
Yeah. I agree with you.
All right. So look, transfer portal is what it is. Today's football is what it is. That's the way it works.
Exactly.
We're
leading the way on that. Aggies are right there on top of that, and they embraced it, and we're loving it. We're reaping the benefits of all this.
Yeah, and I'm with Jimbo. Don't get me wrong. I'd rather recruit them than take them in the transfer portal if I can. But if you have a need, go get it.
And do we have any needs? Only need I could maybe see is depth at linebacker. Unless there's just some badass offensive lineman that is out there that we, get maybe a left guard. Or just
but he'd have to be like an all-conference type of offensive lineman.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you get another receiver in from the portal or running back,
Georgia's got a kid, an offensive lineman that's a big time, like 5-star, high 4-star recruit that's transferring out. But did you know that there's a deadline? And I think it may be the beginning of February or something like that for them to be able to transfer directly to another school in the SEC and play right away.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that's what I like. I like to know when the deadlines are, for that way we can get all this. Like, you need to be enrolled at this school at this time. It's over with.
Otherwise,
if our guys if they're going to leave the program and transfer out, they have to be gone by.
Yeah. No, that's an SEC rule, by the way. That's an SEC rule, not a national college football.
It'll become national. SEC is college football now. But
all right, let's talk a little bit about sort of some things that I went back and saw again with regards to the maroon and white game, and I want to start at the position we always want to talk about, and that's quarterback. And I want to go back. If you listen to the show from Monday, you know that I said, these were my words, something along these lines, that I thought Haynes King was still the starter, but that if he faltered at some point in the season early, I would give the reins to Conner Weigman. Those were my words, right?
Okay.
More or less.
It's not what you said at my house the other day. But go ahead.
I went back and watched Conner and every snap he took. And man, I still feel the same way about his talent. I still feel the same way about his ability to throw the ball, his instincts, all those things. I still feel the same way about. However, as you watch him and you watch more closely, a bunch of those throws, he just doesn't know the offense well enough, because he missed open guys all over the field.
Was he going through his progressions at all? Did you see him going through progressions? Did you see him looking, or did you see him just make a read? That's the only thing. What did you notice from Haynes King? Did you see Haynes look at a receiver, stay him down, and throw that ball?
No, I noticed Haynes was going through progressions, but the difference is that Haynes would have a pre-snap read that in most cases was right.
And then he'd still throw an interception.
A bad throw, yeah.
How many bad throws did Haynes? Okay, who made the most bad throws in the game? I want to know. You watched it again. Was it Johnson, King, or?
Well, they all missed, right? They all missed. The difference being that Haynes had the 2 picks, right? So he missed to the wrong person. But look, Johnson missed some open receivers, threw it to him, and just missed him, right?
Right.
But on the opposite side of that, Haynes King pushed the ball down the field. Johnson did not, right?
Right.
And so you're probably going to have some more misses with Haynes, but you also got some big plays out of it, right? The big play to Stewart, the pass interference on Miles Jones. You got some production out of those deep throws. And so like I said, they're two very, very different quarterbacks, Haynes King and Max Johnson. Right? And so that's going to be the question. If you want this offense to take the next step, to be explosive, to be great, it has to be Haynes King.
Speed. Oh, I thought you were going to say you get Conner up to speed. I got you.
Or you do
I'm
that.
just saying.
Look, Conner does have all the tools, right? And that's what I'm saying now. He has the tools. He's not quite there. He hasn't got enough time with the playbook and the reps with the going through his progressions and doing all those things and seeing the things and recognizing defenses and all those things, right? Because you don't just walk onto a college football field and all of a sudden be able to read defenses. That's rep, constant repetition to see all the different things. And so it's going to take him a little time to do that. For me, and I've said this all along, I would redshirt him. Unless I just had to play him. And the reason
you'd redshirt him. I mean, is he right there? Is he good enough to play right now? I know he's not ready today, but
he can play.
We got like 3, 4, 5 months till the season starts. Do you think he'll be ready to play then? The start?
Look, there's a difference between can he play and should he play? Because he can play.
Right.
He can play. But he's going to have mistakes, right? He's going to have a lot of mistakes.
Well, we're having that from guys that have been here for a little while.
Some of those mistakes will lead to big plays because he'll throw it up and one of our receivers will make a play or whatever, right? Some of those mistakes will pay off. But he still is not very good at progressing through his reads and making the right decision, right? So
I saw enough of that last year with Calzada.
He's playing on instinct. That's what he's playing on, and he's got.
You need that. I like that.
Yeah, no, that's
we had a quarterback like that we thought was just awesome. That played on instinct. That's all he did.
That's all he played on.
He made something out of nothing all the time.
Yeah,
he tried to carry that to the NFL, and it didn't work out too well.
Yeah, nope. That's another level. So all I'm saying with Conner is, I would rather he redshirt this year. I think he's getting set up to have a monster redshirt freshman year if he can take this year to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Versus setting him up for failure this year and sticking him in a bad situation, right?
Right.
On top of that, I think Haynes King is going to be all right. He's got to slow down on the interceptions. All right. So
hey, I had something. Remind me to ask you something later on about the USFL.
Love it.
Yeah,
I'll go with that. Other impressions. Look, I said it earlier. The offensive line I thought dominated the defensive line. Me and you were talking a minute before the show too. I was thoroughly impressed with the offensive line. Don't get me wrong. When Moko got hurt, he came back and he was limping. He got beat on regularly after that. But the rest of those guys did a great job of picking up blitzes. They were recognizing things. They were working together, passing things off on some different stunts and different things. Fathery just stays in front of this guy. I mean, he was dominating Adelier. I'm impressed with this offensive line, and I'm looking forward to seeing this group as a whole get Foster back into the mix, get Aki back into the mix, see sort of how it all plays out. This offensive line now is already better than the offensive line last year at the end of the year. How about that?
I got you. Really? Even without Green?
Without Green.
It's a bold statement.
It's a bold statement, and I think it'll be evident come the fall. And then going to the defense, and I think this is man, this is huge. We talked a lot about this defensive line, and Corey, me and you were talking about it. And your whole thought process is, look, this is so loaded. It doesn't matter that they don't have any experience. Blah 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 blah. And look, Marcus Burris played really well. Lucas played well. I wouldn't say really well, but played well. Delier played well. There's guys there that played. The thing that this defensive line does exceptionally well, from what I could tell, is protect the linebackers. Because they're not, like I said, they don't have those like just super, super penetrating, get off the edge kind of guys. But they're also strong and big, man. That offensive linemen can't come on. And linebackers were free to do whatever they wanted. Absolutely free to work. And to me, that's where I think that Coop is going to have a monster year, because they're going to have all the room in the world to go sideline to sideline without a freaking blocker on them. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, just because, I agree.
Look, last thing with this defensive line is Rakes and Regis are big bodies inside and can work and do that part of it, but they got nothing as far as push up the middle. Nothing all day. All right. Now,
well, our pushes from the middle is going to come from the same guys. I mean, like we talked about before, McKinley Jackson, Turner, Nolan. I mean, the guys you're talking about. I mean, we're talking third, almost fourth on the depth chart right there. I mean,
yeah,
they might be some of the ones you're talking about in the transfer portal later on, just because the talent ahead of them is so great. They're not bad players at all by any means.
Look,
I mean, you put them on a Mississippi State team or a Ole Miss team, and they'd be getting plenty of play time.
Yeah, and look, one of those guys on the field at the same time with a McKinley Jackson or with a Turner, who's more of a penetrator kind of guy, that is not a bad combination, right? A Rakes and a McKinley, or a Regis and a Turner. Not a bad combination. Both of those guys on the field, with both of them are the same, that's really not the combination you're looking for, right? But think about this. Let me see if I can name them. Guys that weren't there that will be in the fall. So we had obviously a Delier, Burris played, Diggs, Lucas, Regis, Rakes. All right.
What was that freshman's name that played pretty good, number 8?
Lucas.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Jackson, Turner, Harris, the two defensive ends, Adarius Jones, Judy, Brunlo Dindy, Nolan, Shamar Stewart, Malik Silla, and Anai White. That's 11 guys. I can't even fit them on my hands. That's 11 guys.
Yeah.
That weren't in the maroon and white game that will be here in the fall.
Exactly, man. I mean, this reminds me of playing that college football game we used to play back in the day. You get there and get all these recruits, and you're like, I can't put all these guys on the field at one time. What do you do? And they start, you're like, okay. It's just what it is. I mean, it's a great problem to have. I just hope that Jimbo can manage it right. This is where managing a football team comes into play, because you can't make them all happy. You're going to lose quite a bit.
Look, we're still going to lose a couple of defensive linemen before the season starts to the transfer portal, right?
Because they can say what they want. A lot of egos come with these guys being this high 4 stars, 5 stars. I'm sure they're in there. Hey, man, I'm a high 4-star. I'm a 5-star player. I'm getting this NIL money. I need to get on the field. That's a lot of egos, man. You're going to have to deal with a lot of BS.
Look, the one good thing here is that we're not going through what Texas is going through with one of their leaders over there on the team coming out and telling the media that there's no focus over there. All people are worried about is the money, the girls, and the show. That nobody wants to work. Did you hear that one?
No, I have not. That doesn't surprise me though.
So Sarkisian, he's not gonna get rid of the guy because he needs his players. But he says no more media availability for him.
Well, there used to be a rule like freshmen and sophomores, they didn't talk to the media anyway.
Yeah, so some coaches still do that.
Right.
All right, so look, I think we've got a great group of guys, and the talent level is through the roof, as we've said many a times. We'll see how it all comes together more and more. I love a couple of the things that we saw on Saturday in the sense that, man, it was man-to-man with some blitzes and some different packages, pressure packages and things, and I thought that was great. So I think that's playing to our strengths. So let's go to questions from the tailgate, brought to you by Rawson Distributing. Assistant Aggies were all their drilling needs. Aggie owned and operated. All right, Corey. Who are the day one starters at wide receiver?
Day one. I'm not sure is he going to go with 3 wides? I'm guessing is what he's going with. 3 wides.
Go ahead and name 4 just to give you a little bit of extra room there to breathe.
Nias, Stewart, Preston. Number 4. Who do you put at the 4th one? Probably Muhammad. That'd be my 4. I mean,
if I were going 4,
I haven't seen some of the guys I haven't seen Marshall yet. I don't know what he has.
Yeah, he hadn't been on campus yet. I don't expect him to be a starter the day one when he did show up.
I mean, Yul Keith Brown, maybe. I don't know. Price's hands didn't look good enough. Go ahead. Who you got?
No. I think you're straight 100% on point. If I were to go 4, those are the 4 I'd go with. I have a feeling that Jimbo's going to have Chase Lane out there.
Not for long. I'll be honest with you.
And I like Chase Lane. He's a leader. He's a great person. He's a good athlete. He's just not one of our top 4 wide receivers.
Hey, if Chase Lane can run a good route and catch the ball, I'm all in. But if he doesn't run a good route and get separation, and if he can block, if he does little things that we don't see, I'll tell you, Anias does that. Anias Smith does that, and he's our best player.
Yeah. That's what I love about Anias. He, no matter what, he gets in there and he'll take care of it. Block somebody, done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, talent-wise, Chase Lane didn't have the talent. I don't think there's any of those guys we just said.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So we'll see what Jimbo thinks. I do think that, in our base package with 3 wide receivers, it's probably Stewart, Anias. I'm gonna go with Moose over Preston.
I can see that.
But it could be Preston.
I like Preston. I've liked Preston for a couple of years, and I've been disappointed with Jimbo. Jimbo's not seeing what I'm seeing. He needs to open his eyes.
Let's see if he'll hire you as wide receivers coach.
Should. I got great speed.
All right, so 2. We had a couple of other spring contests for SEC teams. Did you catch either one of the Auburn or Kentucky spring games?
No. What happened?
So I did. I went back and I watched a little bit of each of those, and let me just say this: Auburn sucks.
Yeah, I knew that. Who do they have their first team quarterback?
Well, it's TJ Finley for now. But Calzada didn't play. He's been hurt the whole.
Well, we already know what Calzada is. We pretty much know we already know what Finley is.
Finley has got a gun, right? He's big. He's got a gun. He just flick of a wrist. He gets that ball. And if everything's perfect, no pressure, no nothing, he's going to kill you.
That administration has killed that team so bad, man. It's not even that coach. That coach, I feel bad for that. That's a dead man walking right there. He has no chance. He's not going to get any backing. It's a bad situation he's in. He needs to try to find a way to get fired so he can get his money out of that school.
Well, he might find a way if they lose, 8 games this year. I'll say this about TJ though: the moment there's pressure on him, that guy's gone. He misses everything the moment it's not perfect. It's just the way.
Well, he's a good athlete. He can, I wouldn't mind seeing him run.
Good athlete is the guy behind him, Ashford, the kid the transfer from Oregon.
I haven't seen him
that
play.
Dude. The wheels on that guy. I wouldn't
Really?
be surprised, as a matter of fact, if they end up using a 2-quarterback system with Ashford and maybe Calzada or Finley, one of the two, right? I mean,
those guys on the Texags were talking about how great an athlete Max Johnson was the other day, about how fast he was, how fast he looked on the spring game. I thought that was great.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah. That's what we want him in there for, is run the ball.
Yeah, Auburn's going to struggle this year. There's just I think.
What about Kentucky? Kentucky has the same.
On the other hand, let me go to on the other hand. Kentucky's going to be good. Levis looks like he is comfortable, like he knows the offense. He looks like he can make every throw out there. He's running things. I'm telling you,
he looked good last year.
He looks better. You remember? He remember the first couple of games he looked just ridiculously good last year, and then he kind of fell off a little bit and slowed down. You know, I'm telling you, he's got this. He's running this offense now.
Levis?
And, yeah.
I liked him last year. I mean, he looked really good in the first. I don't know how many games they played. They were really strong until even Georgia. He looked good for maybe a half until that defense got to him. But he's a good quarterback, man. He's solid.
I'm telling you, I like Kentucky, and I'm all of a sudden really high on Kentucky after watching them. So I think they're going to be pretty good. One more note.
When you say pretty good, what are you thinking? Like second or third in the East?
I think they're the second best team in the East. Yeah.
Wait. Are they ahead of Tennessee?
Ahead of Tennessee. Them in Tennessee, right there, second. How about that?
Oh, man, you're so easily swayed. God, I don't know.
Well, maybe when I watch the Tennessee spring game, I'll go the other way.
I hear you. Go ahead.
One other piece of news here for you, my friend, and really for your father.
Oh, West Virginia.
West Virginia found them a quarterback, buddy. Tell us about that.
Well, my dad called me, man. He was all excited. Corey, tell me about JT Daniels. Like, well, Dad, he couldn't stick at USC and he couldn't stick at Georgia, so he had no other option but to go to West Virginia. He goes, well, we got him.
Well,
I was like, you guys got all the talent. Hey, the kid's got all the talent in the world. I think he's going to the right place. West Virginia throws the ball more than any team in the Big 12 last year. I don't know if anybody knew that. They throw the ball. They had one of the best running backs in the Big 12, and they threw the ball. It worked out well for them. They had one of the worst records in the Big 12.
That sounds like an awesome plan.
Yeah, it was awful. And the quarterback they had last year. But anyway, I had something for you.
All right.
If you got a second. USFL.
Yeah.
3 Aggies are in the USFL. Have you heard this yet?
No.
And I bet you know all 3 of these names. I know 2 for sure you know real well.
Let's see. Williams, the tailback.
Trey Williams.
Who else?
Don't look it up.
No, I'm not. I'm give me a position.
I couldn't believe Trey Williams. I thought Trey Williams might still be in. I thought he was playing for the Panthers or somebody in the NFL. I couldn't remember.
You're thinking of Travion Williams, who's still with the Bengals.
That's who I was thinking of.
Trey Williams is before Travion. Remember, we had 2 back-to-back Trey Williamses.
Yeah.
Okay,
there's an offensive tackle.
Away?
Avery.
Oh, Avery.
Yes.
Hennessy,
yes.
Yeah.
He's in there, and then this is a guy I enjoyed watching this guy play at defensive tackle. Dalen Mack.
Oh, he's already, his NFL career is already done.
Yep.
Good old Dalen.
Mack.
he was a good player, just never quite lived up to the hype.
So those 3 players are playing the USFL, 45-man rosters, 2 quarterbacks. There's some quarterbacks in the league that were
How many
NFL.
teams?
8 teams. Paxton Lynch, remember him from Memphis? He's a quarterback in it. There's a couple other quarterbacks you'd recognize. A few players here and there. I didn't recognize a whole lot of the names. A lot of really small school stuff that guys that I never heard of.
When's the season
through the roster? Pretty soon. All the games are at one field. Every game is in Birmingham, Alabama.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And so
Road trip to Birmingham or what?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to go watch the games, but that's me. I like to watch all the games.
Yeah, we'll bet on them.
Exactly. Anything. You got to figure out how to now.
All right, gig 'em, Aggies. AP Corey signing out from the tailgate.